Hey everyone, welcome to Regency Garden. We built this garden in the fall of 2025, and in just the span of a few months, this space has grown so much. I wanted to show you what we have growing, so I'm going to take you along with me for a late winter / early spring garden tour. I started gardening in the spring of 2025 and built my first 2 raised beds on the right side of the yard along the fence. I was able to grow some leafy greens as well as carrots, beans, marigolds, and peppers. So along the way, I've built up the courage to plan for a bigger and better garden. Fast forward to fall of 2025, with the help of my husband and dad, we created this new garden space that would house our current raised beds on the left side of the yard. I now have a total of 11 raised beds, and I'm going to show you what is growing on each bed. To the right of the entrance, I'm growing 2 blueberries and oak leaf lettuce. The blueberries have started to flower and the lettuce seeds have sprouted. In our Zone 10A, lettuce grows best in partial shade and in cooler months. I'm growing sunshine blue blueberries because it's a low-chill, semi-dwarf variety that is great for warmer climates between Zones 5 through 10. It is also self-pollinating, but yields better when it's planted with another variety. To the left side of the entrance, I have a small grow bag of sweet potatoes that I started from slips back in July, 2 beds of strawberries that I started from bare roots back in October, and a vertical planter of the same strawberries, as well as a variety of herbs that I started a few weeks ago. Almost all of the bare roots that I planted back in October have grown beautiful leaves and sprouted flowers and fruits. These berries are ready to harvest in a couple of weeks. The type of strawberry I'm growing is the Sensation cultivar, which has been bred specifically for a region and yields a bright red and firm, large fruit with excellent shelf life. It is also resistant to water damage and highly resistant to fruit rot. Now we begin the tour on our first 8x2 raised bed. And by the way, if there's anything that you like in this video, I have links to all the beds and trellises that I have used, as well as a reputable seed nursery where I buy my seeds as well as the strawberry starts in the description box of this video. I will also create short how-to videos for these plants to help you with your gardening journey, so don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can be notified for any new video that I upload. This first bed is in direct full sun, which in Florida's Zone 10A could mean very hot. I made the mistake of choosing plants that are not full sun and drought tolerant, like the broccoli head that bolted, cucumbers, squash, as well as the tomatoes that are barely flowering with sun-scorched leaves. But I was able to plant and harvest bush beans, banana peppers, and soon, eggplants. Bush beans are super easy to grow, and take it from a beginner gardener like me, they never fail to germinate at all. I think if you wanted to start a garden, you should begin with planting these bush beans or green beans, and of course my favorite variety, the yard-long beans. Now let's talk about these eggplants, as they took the whole 5 months to flower and eventually fruit. So this new year, I started some seeds early. That way I can add or replace these eggplants by the end of February, so that I can have a continuous or succession of harvest into the beginning of the summer, when these plants tend not to fruit. In Zone 10A, eggplants can be transplanted outdoors beginning January through February, and again in August through September. Although they love the warm weather, extreme summer heat can reduce yields, so the primary season for a Zone 10A gardener to plant eggplants is really from fall, winter, into the spring. I'm also growing some yellow and red bell peppers that are planted under the eggplants so they have shade. Bell peppers are susceptible to heat stress, and in Zone 10A, they are best planted in the cool winter months and preferably not in full sun. In my second bed, I grew yard-long beans, cilantro, water spinach, carrots, zucchini squash, broccoli, and cauliflower. Yard-long beans thrive in Zone 10A's heat and humidity, so I grew yard-long beans continuously since May. They are best sown directly and they mature quickly. They also grow very tall, so you will need a trellis of at least 4 feet tall to support its growth. In Florida's Zone 10A, you can begin sowing seeds in early March for an early summer harvest, as well as in late July for a late fall harvest. As these beans are heat-loving, they tend not to do well when temperatures consistently drop below 50 degrees. These cilantros are thriving under the shade of the yard-long beans and took a total of 3 months from seed. My water spinach have also been growing well and have benefited from the yard-long beans nitrogen fixing. Growing water spinach in Florida is prohibited as it is highly invasive, but to mitigate that, you can, as with any invasive plants, keep it in a pot or, in my case, these raised beds. I plan to harvest these soon and phase them out of my garden, or at least dedicate a separate space just for them because of their needs for growth. Water spinach loves heat. They are frost sensitive and love soggy soil. You may even grow these directly in water, hence the name water spinach. I also started these Danvers carrots from seed in September, and they will be ready for harvest by February. Danvers carrots are a cool season crop and can be planted in Zone 10A during the fall and winter for a spring harvest. Plant these carrots in loose soil using containers or raised beds with at least a foot depth, and thin the seedlings to about 3 inches apart when the leaves are at an inch tall to allow for root development. Most of my cauliflowers on this bed are beginning to show signs of sun scorch, but it's still perfectly edible, so I plan to harvest these in a couple of days. Now bed 3 shows a story of what grew best and what didn't thrive under Zone A's partial shade fall to winter climate. Because our weather was so fickle in that we had some frost days and some longer days of intense heat, my zucchinis did not do well. What surprised me the most, though, is how successful these heirloom tomatoes were, and they have grown a mighty 5 to 6 feet, yielding so many fruits. I was also able to plant and harvest tatsoi in the fall, then ultimately replaced it with broccoli for an early spring harvest. Tatsoi is a cool season crop that prefers partial shade when it gets hotter. Tatsoi is a type of fast-growing brassica that is ready for harvest in as little as 6 weeks. For those that live in a warmer climate, you may plant bok choy instead, as they have a similar taste, and bok choy can thrive through April and May when the weather gets warmer. These broccolis are a heat-tolerant variety called Pura chicaba. They prefer afternoon shade, rich soil, consistent water, and a nitrogen-rich fertilizer to prevent premature bolting. I'm also growing a mammoth Russian sunflower, and it is entering its flowering stage. This was a gifted seed, and I wasn't sure it would survive a warmer fall and winter since I started these back in September. I sowed exactly 1 seed at the edge of my beds 3 and beds 4, and both have been thriving. I can't wait to show you once it is in full bloom. If you're still here, thank you for letting me show you what I have been growing in this garden. I'm so excited to show you the rest of the beds, but I have to wrap up part 1 of episode 1. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and watch out for my next video, which will showcase part 2, as well as all of my late winter projects and cleanup to make ready for a spring garden. I really hope you like this tour, and I can't wait to see you all again.